Hey guys, Garrett Williams here, aka Texans commentator, or best known as Houston Stressans. Thank you for tuning in today. This is my brand new series, the Houston Texans Content Creator Spotlight. My goal with this series is to allow us fans to better get to know the many content creators in this community that provide us great content. There'll be an organic, natural conversation, and so today I hope you enjoy. But before that, please, as always, like, comment, and subscribe, and follow on all social media platforms at Texans Commenter on X, TikTok, and YouTube, and then Houston Stressans on Instagram and Facebook. And as always as well, the website www.houstonstressans.com, where I have articles that are news, analytical pieces, videos, store, merch, and a free newsletter. So with that being said, enjoy today's guest.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of Second Guessing with Stressin. I'm your host, Garrett Williams, or aka Houston Stressans Texans commenter. I decided to do something new and do a Texans content creator spotlight, and today our first guest on that is John Hickman with the Locked On Texans podcast. John, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you, man, for having me. I'm pretty good. Hope my audio is good here, but I'm pretty good, man. Extremely excited to talk Texans with you and to all of the listeners for the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's been, my favorite thing about what I've been doing, I guess what we all kind of do in this world is getting to know people such as yourself. And so that's kind of been my goal, is to kind of shed light on, individuals that do it. Cause I've learned, all that goes into it. It's not easy. It's definitely time consuming. So, and it's been cool too. I got to meet you a couple times in person at the watch parties at the Tejas Brewery.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we kind of chopped it up there. So, but yeah, I mean, so like the first question I would have for you is just, if you don't mind, just kind of give me a background on yourself, however you want to do it, personal life, but basically more so focused on, what you do with the Texans content, the podcast you're on with Big Sarge, how you got to that point. I think today was your 6-year anniversary, I believe.
Yeah, it was. Shout out to me, man. Shout out to
Yeah,
me.
so I should say congrats first. That's quite the milestone right there.
Yeah, man. And never thought. Well, let me not say I never thought. I always knew that I'd be where I am now. I didn't know the road, didn't know the path, but I always believed in my plan, believed in myself. Went to Lamar University, went to school for communications with an emphasis on broadcasting, and then I also did some journalism as well. So I always wanted to be on camera or writing. I kind of I do that now in my professional life, aside from Locked On Texans, where I cover the Texans, but also, of course, I'm on camera on YouTube covering the Houston Texans. And so it's always been a dream of mine to be a sports journalist, be a sports broadcaster since I was a kid. It didn't work out with me going to the NBA, but
Me
it worked
either.
out with me being able to cover athletes each and every day.
That's awesome. So, I mean, I guess I take it, you're like me and the rest of us. It's just a passion of yours that you've found a way to make work, huh?
Yeah, man, and I would take it a step further because it was, like I said, it was a passion of mine early in my life. Watching Amar Rashad after cartoons on Saturdays cover
Yes.
NBA, and so like just watching that, seeing how much fun that he had covering the NBA and his approach to it, and then Stuart Scott, of course. I always wanted to be that. I always wanted to put my name next to Amar Rashad and Stuart Scott. So, left high school, graduated, went to college, did what I had to do there, and then afterwards came out with an internship at ESPN Radio out here in Houston, 97.5. Did that for
Hmm.
about a year, some change. My former co-host, which is a very close friend of mine, Cody Davis, we had our own podcast. The opportunity to take over for Locked On came up from the host before us. And, initially it came to Cody, and Cody said, I'm not doing this without you. So shout out to my brother. We started doing Locked On. And then, like you said, yeah, 6 years later, I'm still here covering the Houston Texans Monday through Friday, your team every day. I'll say this, man. Me being a Patriot fan, and I used to get killed for this, but me not being a fan of the team, Texan fans are some of the best in the world, man. Like, I used to get a lot of flack for that, but over the course of time, I think because of my work and how I covered Houston, with very unbiased, that allowed people to see points of views that maybe they wouldn't have, and I think that allowed for me to connect with a lot of Texan fans. So I wouldn't be 6 years deep without Texan fans. So shout out to those guys, man, guys and girls, excuse me.
That's dope. So I guess today the news with Stephon Diggs had to be like a bittersweet moment for you, like, covering, and I'm sure you're a Texans fan now too if you cover the team. But so what are your thoughts on that from a Texans and or a Patriots perspective?
Well, from a Patriot perspective, I didn't like the move, man. I knew we were going to overpay for a receiver. I was completely okay with giving T. Higgins $35 million a year, 23 for Stephon, and to be fair to Diggs, like he is projected to be ready for Week 1.
Hmm.
Diggs is a receiver that doesn't need a lot of time to prepare to get ready for games. I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. I thought that number was extremely high for the Houston Texans. That's just if they end up winning a Super Bowl or getting close to it, Diggs would be like just a blimp on the road for them. Like they tried, they swung, they missed. In some cases, Diggs worked out for Houston, but ultimately voided the last 3 years of his contract, traded the second round pick for 2025. And so, like, I think that looks bad on Houston, but it didn't work out. And it left Houston with a void in their wide receiver room because now, yeah, they traded for Christian Kirk. He's coming off an injury, but very inexpensive deal, so that's okay. It's justifiable. But the rest of the room looks like Braxton Berrios, Justin Watson, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson. Four of those guys, two of those guys are, going into their third year without any real eye-popping games. The other two guys are just vets that's been around for a long time. So Houston still has I think, a deep need at wide receiver, and I think we'll see them address it for real in the NFL draft in April.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I agree with both your sentiments. I mean, I love Stephon Diggs. I thought he was great for us. I mean, it was a gamble, and it didn't pay off. He got hurt. It was like an all-in type of move.
It was.
But as far as the Patriots, though, I think that was an overpay. Like you mentioned, the ACL, like it was an early injury, and he's ahead of schedule. But I mean, it's almost like they just had a bunch of money and they just spent it. Like you didn't have to do that, in my opinion.
They had,
What was
I
it,
mean,
23 million APY
yeah, it's a
or
lot.
20? Yeah.
26 guaranteed. I've looked at the numbers. I'm on a Texan podcast, so I'm trying to not say the word "we" as I refer to the Patriots,
No, that's fine, bro. We don't
but
care.
we had a lot of money and it had to go somewhere. And I think of all of the receivers available, Stephon Diggs may still have the highest upside.
Yeah.
Look at what Stephon Diggs can bring to a locker room for a young quarterback. Kind of the same thing that he did with Josh Allen. He's not that version of Stephon Diggs anymore, but last year being around the Texans, not as much as other media members like Sarge, my co-host, like DJ Bieniemy, like John Alexander, Aaron Wilson. Those guys are around a lot more than I am, but they'll attest to the fact that Stephon Diggs meant a lot in that locker room. And he meant a lot to those young guys in that receiver room. So that is the positive for the Patriots. And I also think that is somewhat of a negative for the Texans losing him.
Mhm.
I will say for the Houston Texans, whatever reason you would say this is what Stephon Diggs for Houston in 2024, I think Nico Collins restructuring his contract proved that he is the leader of that room. And I also think he is one of the leaders of this team. So Nico is going into year 4 now. All of the leadership qualities that he was able to soak up from Stephon Diggs, I am one of those guys that I'm looking forward to seeing Nico, be that version for Houston moving forward.
I agree, and so, like, I've been arguing too, like, while, like, we didn't get the full year of production from Stephon Diggs, I still feel like there will be a carryover effect from his presence that he showed them. He came in as a true vet. He, taught guys routes. I mean, we all saw clips of, like, him not only staying after practice in the training camp with receivers, but also DBs teaching him stuff that he's learned. But he brought the juice, the energy. Like, he showed them how to be a leader. Like, it was crazy to me because you always hear this stuff about Stephon Diggs and these stereotypes or whatever, and then you see him and it's like it's a complete opposite. So
Yeah,
it's tough it didn't work out. But
I think with Diggs, I mean, he was in Buffalo for a long time, and while in Buffalo, they kind of reached their peak. And so, we've all had some type of relationship in our life where you keep forcing it, you may not break up yet, but you keep forcing it, and it's just like, you know what, man, it ain't working. You ain't doing the dishes, not
Mhm.
cooking. I gotta keep asking you to take out the trash and stuff like that. So it gets
Yeah.
annoying, and over a course of time, it gets overwhelming. And then when you find a new situation, you kind of hide some of your qualities that you portrayed in your last relationship. Now, I don't know if he was hiding qualities in Houston, but what I will say is compared to what everybody else has to say about Stephon Diggs in Buffalo, maybe even Minnesota, in his 1 year in Houston, none of that came up.
Yeah. And so like maybe that's and we can only guess as to what would have happened, and based off of the track record, you could assume that would have happened. But I mean, to your point too, like I saw the Patriots as a good landing spot because he's basically playing the exact same role he played in Houston, but except they're less of a contender. But now you have Drake May in year 2, you had CJ Stroud in year 2, so you're kind of a mentor there. You have a young wide receiver room. And so I think that will be tremendous for them. We got a good question here from Robert Land. He says, "What do you think about ex-Patriot Trent Brown? Is he just a camp body?"
Man, that's a good question. I am 50-50 on the second part of that question. Is he just a camp body? Trent Brown is a player that, when motivated, when playing with a chip on their shoulder, you get the best version out of him. The problem is that isn't consistent. The problem is there's times where you're not getting the best effort out of Trent Brown, and then you're not getting the best effort out of Brown on top of the injuries piling up. He's not available. I also think his weight was a problem, has been a problem for him throughout his year. I said that throughout his career. Excuse me. I said that on the Locked On Texan podcast when we talked about Trent Brown on Monday. Now, the second part of that question, is he just a camp body? I think Trent Brown still wants to prove he can play in the NFL. I think Trent Brown, before he went down last year in Cincinnati, did a very good job of blocking for Joe Burrow. And that was only 3 games, so that's an extremely small sample size. But I don't want to just classify him as a camp body because he is a vet the Houston Texans can lean on if something happens. And last year, things would happen, and they would have to lean on second-year guys, and it didn't work out. And so Trent Brown, to me, comes off as a good piece for depth, also a good camp competition person. And if he plays at the level that he can play in the NFL,
Mm-hmm.
does he beat out Cam Robinson? What happens at right tackle? He's played left and right tackle in the NFL. We've just given that role to Blake Fisher. I'm probably one of the only people that believes that Blake Fisher can really thrive playing guard. So what does the best version of Trent Brown bring out in the rest of that offensive line room? And he's also a guy that's been under Cole Popovich, been under Nick Caney, so the familiarity is there as well.
That's some great points, and I'm surprised to hear you say, like the effort and the overweight. I mean, it seemed like they were trying to get rid of those things specifically on the O line, and now you kind of replace it with that. But at the very least, it seems like a low risk, high reward situation. We got about 2 minutes. Is it okay if I ask you one more question before I turn you loose?
Absolutely, man. We can add another 2 minutes on after that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, since we have the Patriot connection and you know them, it's a hot topic, and I know you address it on your show, and I have my thoughts, but I'm curious, for the fans right now, what is your whole opinion on, the fear of the Patriot South, adding Trent Brown, adding the fullback and the coaches? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we talked about that. I believe it was Friday's show, or maybe Monday, but I kind of explained it the best way I can. So before this year, when it was Bobby Sloyd, when it was bringing over Jimmy Ward, then the following year they bring in Aziz, right, and then D'Amico Ryans is the head coach. The notion of this being 49ers South was okay. It was cool. It was fun. And I think that may be because at the time the 49ers were like the perennial, or they're going to, win the championship. And so the DNA of the 49ers getting to the Houston Texans team, a franchise that has never won anything, the idea I think was kind of fun. I do think Patriot South may be a bit much But I look at it like this, guys, because I think it is a Patriot South thing going on in Houston, but it's not because they're trying to. They're not being like the little brother anymore. Like when that first came up, it was it was like, okay, let me bring my little brother with me. Now I look at it like everything that the 49ers South, Bobby Slowick, ruined the offense, everything that came with the last couple of years, you're now looking for Nick Caley and Cole Popovich to turn around. And a lot of people like to pinpoint to Caley's time in LA and look at, what he can bring from LA. And I'm like, he spent a lot of time, Tom Brady spent a lot of time in New England. He spent a lot of time with a franchise that won championships. So did Nick Caserio. And so I think it could be unfair to classify the Texans as the Patriots of South. But I do look at it like those guys, Cole, Caley, and Caserio, those guys are gonna implement everything that they can, knowledge wise, play style from the players that they're looking for, coaching, to bring the success that they witnessed and was a part of from their New England days to Houston. And so I want to clarify because I do think it's, where the Texans are as a franchise now, I understand why fans can find that disrespectful. But it's not to say like Patriots of the South, oh, you guys are confident because you want to be a little brother. No, it's more so of those guys who are brought in or elevated in Cole Popovich to fix the issues that Bobby Sloyd screwed up with, last year. And now the thought is they're going to make what was bad last year successful. They're going to get the most out of guys. And for 20 years, I watched that franchise get the most out of guys like Danny Amendola, get the most out of guys like Julian Edelman, who, turned out to have a great career. Get the most out of guys like a Kimbrell Thompson for a couple of games, or Aaron Dodson for a couple of games. Get the most out of guys like Chris Hogan. Get the most out of a lot of guys that were just like nameless guys, and then you look up and they're making big plays in the Super Bowl.
Chris Hogan, Justin Watson.
Justin Watson, Chris Hogan, Amendola, Braxton
Kirk,
Berrios.
Barrios, yeah. Kirk's
So
better
like
than that. But
those correlations are there. And I think it's okay to look at it and say, man, the influence that those two guys can bring to fix our offensive line, to protect CJ Stroud from the inside out, which is what Nick Caley said, to get the most out of a John Mechie or Xavier Hutchinson, that should be, I think, worth saying, like, okay, hey, we need to give them time to figure it out because they know what they're doing. They've been a part of it for so long.
yeah, and I think too, like, it's a sensitive, emotional topic for a lot of fans because when we think about this, we think about Bill O'Brien when he tried to do it. And the big thing for that for me was he was trying to be someone he wasn't. He was trying to be like Bill Belichick when there's only one Bill Belichick. He was trying to be like this my way or the highway type of guy. The difference is now, in my opinion, we have D'Amico Ryans. And I would argue, like, I mean, your point is great. Like, yeah, why would you not, if you have guys that came from a certain area, try to emulate, the success they had, like instead of reinventing the wheel. But my argument would be that I kind of lost my train of thought there. I was talking about the Patriots. Yeah, I just had a total brain fart there. But I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing that's happening. But I would say the biggest thing of why they're getting these coaches, it's like more of a network than it is, them specifically making a concerted effort of trying to do that is what I was going to say. It's about who it's the NFL. Your circle is only so big, and so I think that's not being talked about as much either.
And I want to end off with this. Bill Belichick is known as one of the greatest minds, defensive minds. In the last couple of years, man, we've seen D'Amico Ryans
Dude.
turn the defense around. Last year was insane, right? He got the best out of a lot of guys.
Yep.
Hey, it's okay to just win with a stout defense.
Facts.
And again, I think we have not heard anything from CJ Stroud. I think there was one picture floating around because somebody caught him getting ice cream or something like that. But Drew Brees have talked highly of CJ Stroud. Tom Brady has stamped CJ Stroud. It's okay to win with a stout defense, taking the ball away, getting sacks, shutting offenses down. and your quarterback being so mentally prepared with pinpoint accuracy and knowing how to beat the defense. That sounds like what? I watched it for a very long time. That
Mm-hmm.
sounds like Patriot-esque.
Yep.
I understand it's disrespectful for Texas fans, so let's just call it success.
That works. And you bring a good point too. So like I've been trying to preach this too. Like as fans, we want the Texans or any team to win with, scoring 50 points and all this stuff. But like D'Amico Ryans wants to win this way. And this was, a lot of our concerns in hiring a defensive minded head coach. But now you just kind of call out like, hey, not all these Super Bowl winners have to be offensive head coaches. You can do it with defensive head coaches. And that's what the Patriots did. So then, yeah, we should follow that blueprint to an extent.
And
That's a great
and
point.
I mean 6 championships in 20 years.
Yeah, that's hard to beat. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on. If you want to, pitch anything while you're on here, whether it's Texans related or not, feel free to do so.
Yeah, absolutely, man. First and foremost, again, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Robert Land, please don't sign East to be no more. But thank you guys for hopping on, supporting not only myself, but my boy Garrett. We ain't stressing tonight. We blessed.
That's
Follow
right,
me,
baby.
John_Hickman12. Also follow the Locked On Texans page on YouTube and subscribe, like, and comment as well. We got a lot of great stuff coming on for you guys. So tap in with us.
I appreciate it. And, so this is just like a mini little turbo series, and I'll be happy to have you on later again for an extended period of time if you're willing to do so. So,
Let's get it. I mean, it's
all
9
right.
o'clock right now, so if we can get it a little bit earlier.
Yep. I got you. Noted.
I'm a young old man, so it's past my bedtime.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, yeah, whenever you're ready, you can just exit. And then next up, we got AD, but I appreciate you, John.
Shout out to my boy AD. They do a very good job breaking down film. And I know you got my boy Ruben on. He does a very good job of covering the Houston, Texas. The Texans community, amazing. Amazing.
Facts.
And so I love what you're doing, locking in everybody, support everybody. Let's all get to our dream and goals. I'm out.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother.